Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to our vanilla Minecraft world, and today we're going to be trying to finish up our villager breeder that we started on last time. So as you may recall, if you did see that episode, we built this giant villager, and inside of him is a village breeding system, as well as spots for 48 unique villagers that we can trade with later on. So, that's all well and good, and it was at least semi-functional. We did get some villagers out of it, obviously, and we can even push the button and kind of swap the villagers around with the one more set that's down below. So, realistically, our system is technically functional, but it's still missing quite a lot. There are some small detailed parts, like I want to continue the glass rail around the side, we need to add in indicators for which villagers have which trades, and just some small stuff like that. But more importantly, the functionality of the farm itself is not exactly ideal at the moment. So I threw in this temporary breeding setup, and it's a little bit of a mess at the moment because I've been breaking blocks and shifting around different block placements and stuff like that, because for some reason these guys just do not want to breed the vast majority of the time. Which is a little bit weird because I know that this village up here is working properly because the rest of our villagers are happy to breed whenever they can. So, a little bit strange, but that's not going to be too much of a problem, I don't think, or at least I hope, because I'm actually going to be moving all of these guys, probably up top somewhere temporarily, and replacing this setup with something a little bit quicker and a little bit more organized. So, I'm going to go ahead and get to that, and, well, it's probably going to be a rather unpleasant process, because it is going to involve moving villagers around again. But hopefully when I get back to you guys, the villagers will be back in place, and they will be breeding properly again. And once we have a good flow of villagers going, I'll move on and take care of some of the other technical problems that we still have with our farm, and we'll try and get everything wrapped up today. So, I'm going to go get to all of that, and I'll be back with you guys in just a minute. So here is our villager breeding setup so far. I think it's okay. Not the most glamorous thing in the world, but given what this area is used for and the space constraints that we had, I think it'll be just fine. Now, obviously I went with a variant of Unarybit's design, the kind of standard mob farm, the kind of standard villager breeder design that most people tend to go with these days. And I think that that's just kind of the best option that we have for the space that we had to work with. I did try to come up with other designs in here, and I even had some that had their own unique advantages, but I think that just for simplicity and for the sake of getting as many villagers as possible into a condensed area without causing all kinds of problems, this is just the best way to go. So, that being said, there are a couple problems with my particular breeder. Obviously, this side being one of them. These villagers have somehow all gotten offset, and I think what happened is that there was a couple blocks alongside the area down below, next to the feet of the villagers, and this made it so that the babies couldn't escape that side. So I think that a baby was born, it popped out that side, and then it had to push through the villagers to get out, which means that it jumbled them all around somehow, which is kind of impressive because I couldn't jumble them around myself by running into them. But I imagine that's what happened. So I fixed that problem, but unfortunately I haven't been able to correct the positions of the villagers. So what I'm going to end up having to do is pull all of those guys out and then put them back in one by one and kind of reset the entire section. So that's going to be lovely, but hopefully that will get that side back into good shape. I am a little concerned about this side, though. Now, this side, the positioning is fine, but ever since I first turned this farm on, I don't think I have once noticed this side emit hearts. The center one works completely fine. I've seen that churn out babies like no tomorrow. The right side was working fine until they all got jumbled up, though they should still be releasing hearts even still, though maybe that's just because they ran out of food or something. Not entirely sure. This side over here is almost entirely new villagers, so that's one factor, I guess. I had to grab them from our farm area, our original farm area, in order to get enough of them, but I did throw like 7 stacks of carrots in there, and they just haven't been breeding, at least as far as I've seen. So that is mildly concerning, especially considering they're obviously within range of the village, and our villagers down below are still trying to breed and everything, so not entirely sure what's up with that. That's very similar to the problem we were having last episode with the other breeder design that we had. Oopsie. So I'll be looking into that and obviously fixing these guys, but we have one other step that I want to take care of before I focus on that, and that's this area down here. Now, obviously, I've pulled out a few villagers that I want to keep, a few people with interesting trades, like here's Efficiency 4, though it is a bit pricey. I think this guy had, what was it, Power 5. Again, a little bit on the pricey side, but Power 5 book, I will keep that, at least for now. A decent cleric with rotten flesh, gold, and glowstone trades, all the best that they can be. Just in general, we've gotten a few decent villagers from it, and there's another like 15 or so waiting to be pulled out. That being said, this system needs to change. Obviously, this is not a good solution. It means that I have to manually break carts, I have to manually pull villagers out, which is just a hassle, and in general, it just doesn't work very well. So I want to try and build something a little bit better and make things look a little bit nicer, probably put everything behind some kind of facade or a wall of some kind. But I would like to get to the point where I just push a button to retrieve a villager, and then with a flick of a lever or a push of a button or however I want to do it, I want to send the villager off to get killed or pull them out the front and allow me to put them wherever they need to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get to that. I'll try and get all of this set up, or at least a good way in, so that we have kind of a good idea of what's going on. And maybe I'll try and take care of our breeding problems at the same time, and I'll be back with you guys once all of that's taken care of. Where on earth did you come from, and how did you get inside my redstone? These villagers, man, they are just trying to drive me insane any way they possibly can, I'm pretty sure, especially the ones inside the breeder, though I'm pretty sure I have those back to where they need to be now, though that was not a smooth process, let me tell you. I got the ones out that I needed to, but I sort of messed up the middle set as well, and I had to replace those, and it was a nightmare. Kind of wish I had recorded that so you could have seen what I dealt with, but oh well. This guy, well, he's a nitwit. We definitely don't want a nitwit in our redstone. It's about the last thing you ever want, so yeah, gonna have to get rid of him. And as you can see, we're still dealing with a little bit of a mess down below. I noticed this guy when I was about halfway done with that, so, oops. Oh god, I'm the nitwit in the redstone. I walked into my own fire. Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, this area is still a bit of a mess. Still working on the setup back there. I have a decent system for pulling the villagers out and whatnot now, I think. Still have to test it out fully, but a little bit left to do. Have to make the system for determining whether we want to keep them or kind of send them to their doom, and then we should be good to go. So, I'll go finish that up, hopefully if I don't notice any more villagers in my redstone, and I'll be back with you guys in just a second. Alright, so our little area down here is looking much cleaner and more organized now, which is awesome. Though, obviously, it's not particularly pretty. Not that it needs to be as a technical area, but this big andesite wall back here is a bit of an eyesore. Now, the reason I haven't tried to do anything better looking with that yet is that, honestly, it's probably all going to get changed. Like, the entire system that I built and everything is likely not going to be there for very long. That being said, it is functional at the moment, and we will be going with a similar setup, so I'll show you guys how it works at least. Right over here we have a holding cell. This is where all of our babies get filtered to once they've grown up. And here is where they come over to determine if we want to keep them or not. So we can trade with this guy. We see that he's a fisherman, which I don't particularly want. So I could lift the lever up here. That would save him. Or I could flip the lever down to the skull. Unfortunately for this guy, he is getting the skull. So we push the button. He goes off, and you hear some terrible sounds. And a new villager pops in. This one's a cartographer. We don't really want them either, to be honest. I don't have much use for them. So I'm going to leave that on Skull, and I'll send him over. We'll get another one. That's a nitwit. We know where he's going to end up going. In fact, I can just send him along his way. That should be fine. And there is the inherent flaw with this system. Unfortunately, minecarts do not prevent villagers from moving, at least when they're on rails. So the way that this system is set up right now, these guys are always on a rail, and it means that if they decide to pathfind somewhere, they can just kind of meander on away, which that's not exactly great. So I need to fix that, which means that we need to tweak the system a bit. And there's also another problem that I want to discuss in a second. That means this needs to get redone as well. But since we're back here anyway, this is what this looks like. It's all very, very simplistic. Right over here, we have the setup where the villagers are. The villagers are behind these stairs right here. And the minecarts come up from that rail down there. I know you can't see very well. Pardon the lack of visual representation, but I can't really get down there. But the minecarts come up there, they pick up a villager and kind of teleport the minecarts through because of the weird behavior that they have when going through blocks. And the villager comes over here, snaps onto this rail, comes up here, snaps over to this one. And I do that little setup just so, yay, new cleric, just so these guys don't pathfind back down this way. So that did help that problem, but they do still find their way kind of rambling around over this way and stuff like that. So that is still an issue. But assuming that wasn't a problem, what would happen is we'd push the button and they'd get sent over here. And then when we toggle this switch, all it's doing is switching this rail. And that determines whether they go straight out here, so we can place them into one of our holding cells, or if they go over this way, which will send them onto that magma block. So that's all well and good. Obviously, that is not ideal, the fact that they can just kind of wander away and go to their own death. It's not technically the end of the world, because normally when we're going through these guys, we would go through all of them in a big group, like one right after the other, so we would catch them relatively quickly, but it is still annoying. So I do want to solve that, and I also want to move where this is going to be. So if I didn't move this, we've kind of run into a bit of an issue, and that's that we have no way to get down here, and all of the sides are occupied by something. We have the villager selection system, we have the redstone on both sides, and we have the tube where the villagers come down when they're babies and get sent over. So there's no way for me to make a path to get in here or a staircase or anything like that. Our only options if we want to get into this area right now and make like a proper entrance to it is to go through the ceiling or to go through the floor. And neither of them are ideal. The floor has all kinds of stuff going on. We've got tubing underneath it and a little bit of redstone scattered around and stuff like that. And the ceiling, if we got rid of this or if we modified this, it would modify the walkway up above, because this is the floor up where we walk when we're trading the villagers. And I don't really want to put a hole in the floor or anything like that. And if I tried to make something where I would like seal it up with pistons and then would open back up, well, we would lose all of our floor space down here, which isn't ideal either. So there are a few solutions to that. I could do something simple, like just put a ladder right here with a trapdoor. That would work 100% fine. It would be a completely acceptable solution, but that's also kind of boring. That's not how we do things around here. So what I think I'm going to do instead is take this entire setup in a slightly modified, hopefully better version, and put it over here instead. So instead of dropping the villagers down and transporting them across, I'll try and build the entire system over here, which I was initially avoiding because I didn't want to deal with all of this redstone that I have to do for the swapping mechanisms. But worst case, I'll have to just move that around and figure out something else. But I think that having this whole setup over here is just going to work out better in general. And that'll also free up this wall, which means that we can make a path to get in here, either via a staircase from our main path above, or an elevator or something like that. There's just going to be some decent way to get down here as long as we have one open wall to work with. So, I'm going to go ahead and start that process. I'm going to tear all of this out, probably sort through these villagers first, I suppose, and tear out all of the tubing and stuff, and I'm going to try and find out a way to make all of this work, to make our swapping mechanisms and everything kind of fit into place, and still have an open wall over there. So if I can do that, I'll get back to you guys once we're done, and then we can move on to kind of the finishing details of our farming area. Weaponsmith, huh? Alright, let's see what you got, buddy. So here is our villager selection system. It's working fairly well for the most part. He's going to want an iron trade next, I assume. So yeah, it's working fairly well. There's a couple little problems, though, mostly due to my own short-sightedness. Smite 2 sword, don't really want you. See you later, buddy. So obviously this is working more or less the same as the previous system I showed you guys. Leatherworker, don't really want you. It is working a little bit better though. I have the villagers trapped in a way that they can't just meander around, so that's good. Toolsmith. There are a couple problems though. First off, this light right here should technically be on at the moment, at least most likely. That is actually meant to indicate when there are villagers inside the containment area behind, so that you can kind of tell when you have villagers to pull out. But unfortunately, that was interfering with our minecart system, and I had to disconnect it. Librarian. I don't think I have any more paper. Nope, gotta go get more paper. So you're gonna have to stay there for a while, buddy. But yeah, the light was basically interfering with the redstone for our minecart system. So I had to disable that temporarily. It is a relatively easy fix, but there's also another problem that's going to kind of fix that automatically anyway, and that's that I need to redo our containment area. Basically, for some reason, and I have no idea why this is the case, for some reason I forgot to separate out the babies and the adult villagers, which is kind of an important step. Obviously, right now, if I keep pushing this button, eventually I will get a baby villager over here. And if I don't wait for that baby to grow up and I just send it off to be killed, there's a pretty good chance that the baby's going to find his way out and just start wandering around in the redstone, which is obviously not ideal. So I'm going to need to fix that. It shouldn't be too bad. It's just going to need to be an extra containment area. But that's pretty much all that needs to be done over here. And even with that problem aside, I've only actually pulled out one baby so far, but even with that problem going on, I've still managed to get quite a few decent villagers going on. I'll show you some of them in a second. This guy, for example, has a 15 carrot trade, which is decent. And I figured I'd keep him just because I don't have many farmers at the moment. But if we head over here, and don't worry too much about the rather lacking aesthetics that I have going on at the moment, I have to experiment with this area and figure out what I want to put over here. Maybe anvils and end chests, maybe just like a little utility area like that, or maybe it'll be purely decorative. I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to have to experiment with that a bit. It's one of those things that I'll build and then tear down and then rebuild. And that's also probably going to happen with this area out here. I threw in these staircases just because I wanted some way to get up and down without leaving a hole in my floor all the time, but these are quite ugly. So I don't know if I'll replace these with a better looking spiral staircase, or maybe a longer path that connects up to the upper path up here somewhere, or maybe even an elevator of some kind. Not entirely sure, but I'll figure that out as well. Hopefully I'll get all of these things taken care of before we're here next time, because I would like this place to be 100% done next time you guys see it. We'll probably be wandering off and taking care of other projects next episode, just because we've been here for a little while, but definitely still not done here. That being said, we have made good progress. So I've been name tagging the villagers, or at least starting to, and I think that this is a really good way of keeping track of what trades they have, at least for certain types of them. So this guy, for example, has Fire Protection 3 for 27 emeralds, Frostwalker 2 for 18, and Unbreaking 1 for 16. So as long as you can remember those acronyms for all the different things, so like Curse of Binding, Projectile Protection, and Respiration, stuff like that, as long as you can remember all of those acronyms, this works really, really well. So that's that. I think that's a good way of doing it, though I do also want to try having the items in the item frames as well. Raining again. I think that would be a good way to, at a glance, kind of find the one you're looking for. So, for example, this guy has Frostwalker. That's kind of his standout trade. So we might put a block of ice in this little item frame over here, and that would indicate one of the two villagers in here has a Frostwalker trade. So if we walk up here, and this guy's here, who has Sharpness 5, for example, at a great price, so he would have a sword in here. So we'd have a sword and a block of ice. And if we want to get the block of ice, if we want to get the Frostwalker trade, and he's not here, we just hit the button, and, well, there he is. We can see that he has Frostwalker. So I think that that is a decent solution in general. I think that that should work out pretty well. And it works okay for librarians. For other types, it's a little questionable. Like the weaponsmith, because there's so many possible enchantments on the sword, for example, it kind of fills up really quick, because we do only have 30 characters to work with. But I think I can probably make that fit. I was trying to get the coal, the iron, and all the tools and stuff all in one, but I think if I lop off maybe the coal, it'll probably all fit. We'll see. Either way, that's what we're doing. I think that this project is turning out okay. And like I said, I'll try and take care of all of the little quirks it has and try and figure out some of the build stuff before we're here next time. But that's going to be sometime in the future. We're going to call it here for today. And we're probably going to be off handling new projects next time. Hopefully something kind of interesting. We'll see if I can get it designed in time. But next time we're over here, we're probably actually going to start working on farms and stuff, because I do want to build some industrial scale farming operations to help fuel our trading shenanigans. I'm still not entirely sure about how I'm going to transfer items and whatnot. I'm debating whether I want a full-on storage system or if I just want to depend on shulker boxes, but that's a discussion for another time. For today, I think I'm going to get going. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and hopefully you will be around for the next one. So, have an amazing day. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.